Have you ever paused mid-breath? The kind of pause where the air around you thickens and the ordinary world fades into a hush? Not from sorrow's sharp edge or fury's roar, but from a whisper that reshapes everything you thought you knew about connection. Before I share what my daughter murmured that changed it all, pause with me. Where are you tuning in from right now? A bustling street in Seattle? A quiet balcony in Miami? Drop it in the replies below. It's these threads of shared stories that remind me how we're all woven into this vast, unexpected tapestry. Let me draw you back to where it started. In the soft glow of a seaside cottage that once hummed with laughter, but had fallen into a stillness that pressed against my chest like an uninvited guest. My husband, Edward, had been gone 6 months, taken too soon by a heart that gave out mid-sentence during our evening walk along the shore. We'd shared 38 years, a life built on quiet routines, his morning coffee black as the waves, my sketches of the horizon scattered across the breakfast nook. Now, his absence wasn't just the empty chair at dinner or the unturned soil in our garden plot. It seeped into the salt-kissed air, the faded blue curtains that still held the scent of his pipe tobacco, the stack of dog-eared novels by the reading lamp, pages marked with his precise underlines. Time didn't heal so much as it stretched, thin and translucent. I filled the hours like so many do in the shadow of loss, polishing silver that gleamed too brightly, sorting seashells into jars that lined the windowsill, wandering the beach at dawn to collect driftwood that I'd never carve. But sorrow isn't a drawer to tidy or a shelf to dust. It curls in the corners, waiting. My daughter Clara had been my anchor through the fog. At 39, she carried her father's steady build and my unruly auburn curls, her green eyes holding that same depth of quiet reflection. Divorced just over a year from a marriage that unraveled like fog over the water, she'd turned inward, sifting through life's fragments with a patience that mirrored Edward's. She'd drive up from the nearby harbor town every weekend, arms laden with fresh-baked scones or wildflowers from the roadside stands, sometimes with nothing but her presence and a thermos of chamomile tea. One misty Tuesday, as I stepped inside from tending the wild roses that climbed the trellis, petals damp and fragrant, I heard the crunch of tires on the gravel path. The door creaked open before I could call out, and there she was, rain-dotted jacket slung over one arm, a tentative smile softening the lines of worry on her face. "Didn't expect me midweek?" she said, her voice light but laced with something heavier, like stones in a pocket. I wiped my hands on my apron, the fabric worn soft from years of use, and pulled her into a hug that lingered just a beat too long. "Surprises are welcome these days," I replied, though a flicker in her gaze told me this wasn't a whim. We drifted to the sunroom, where the windows framed the restless sea, and settled into the wicker chairs with mugs of herbal brew steaming between us. The waves murmured outside, a rhythmic underscore to the pause that stretched companionably at first, then deepened. She traced the rim of her cup with a fingertip, her shoulders curving slightly forward, the same posture she'd worn as a girl when confessions brewed. I knew better than to prod. Clara unfolded truths on her own timeline. Finally, she lifted her eyes to mine. "Evelyn," she began, using my name like a bridge rather than Mom. "Have you ever felt like his leaving carved out more than just a hole? Like it unearthed pieces of you that were buried even deeper?" The words landed soft but sure, stirring the silt at the bottom of my heart. I set my mug down, the ceramic warm against my palms, and met her stare. "Every dawn," I admitted, my voice threading thin. "It's as if the light reveals not just his absence, but echoes of who I tucked away to fit beside him." A beat passed, heavy with the salt air. She rose then, crossing to the window where the horizon blurred into gray, her silhouette etched against the glass. Turning back, she leaned against the frame, arms crossed like a shield half lowered. "When he faded, it didn't just dim you for me, it dimmed something in me too. You were always this vibrant force with him, quick-witted and alive, but there was a veil, wasn't there? Even as a child, I sensed it, this barrier you built, not out of coldness, but out of protection, maybe. I ached to slip past it, to know the woman beneath the roles." Her honesty washed over me, cool and clarifying, leaving me breathless. "Evelyn," I started, but she waved it off with a gentle hand, her expression raw yet kind. "This isn't blame, it's just, since the memorial, I've been unraveling it all. I see you now, truly, and I crave that closeness, not as your daughter, but as Clara meeting Evelyn, two souls charting untraveled waters." Tears pricked. Unbidden, but they carried no sting, only release. From the pocket of her jacket, she drew a small lacquered tin, its surface etched with faint waves from some long-ago trip. "I found this sorting through his desk," she said, placing it in my lap. My fingers trembled as I lifted the lid, revealing a faded Polaroid. Me, perhaps 25. Mid-laugh on a sun-drenched pier, skirt billowing, hair wild, eyes alight with a joy that felt borrowed from another life. A smile tugged at my lips, bittersweet. "She seems like a stranger now," I murmured, fingertip ghosting over the image. Clara knelt beside me, her hand on my knee. "Not to me. That's the essence I want to coax back, to have you, all of you, shining again." Her voice cracked on the last word, and I pulled her close, our foreheads touching in the dimming light. In that shared breath, unspoken years dissolved, motherhood's armor, widowhood's weight, yielding to a fragile, fierce tenderness. She pulled back slightly, her gaze searching. "May I share something vulnerable?" I nodded, pulse quickening like the tide's pull. What if we peeled back the layers we've worn too long? Not as family bound by expectation, but as companions mending what time frayed. It wasn't a line crossed into shadow. It was a door nudged open to light, profound, uncharted, rooted in the ache for wholeness. I squeezed her hand. "Yes," I breathed, and in that syllable, the cottage's silence bloomed with promise. The echo of Clara's visit clung to the rooms like sea mist after a storm, subtle, pervasive, stirring the air anew. That dusk, I wandered the wraparound porch, the boards cool underfoot, watching gulls wheel against a sky-bruised purple. The photo rested in my pocket, its edges soft from my touch. The woman captured there danced with abandon, unburdened. How had I become the shadow version, the one who measured joy in teaspoons? Clara's confession had unlocked a hidden chamber in me, not just grief's vault, but a longing I'd named only in dreams. To be beheld not as caretaker or survivor, but as Evelyn with her half-forgotten sketches and midnight musings. Days slipped by in gentle rhythm. She texted once, a simple wave emoji against a crashing surf photo, granting space without distance. I didn't mind the quiet, it hummed now, expectant. Come Friday. As fog rolled in from the bay like a whispered secret, her knock came, 3 soft raps. The pattern from her teen years when she'd sneak back from late-night bonfires. I swung the door wide and she stood there, canvas tote bulging with artisanal cheeses and crusty bread, a bottle of elderflower cordial tucked under her arm. "Provisions for a fireside chat," she grinned, the curve of her mouth easier, less armored. We unpacked in the kitchen, elbows brushing as I sliced tomatoes and she crumbled feta onto platters. The space between us felt charged, not with unease, but with the spark of rediscovery. Over plates balanced on our laps in the sunroom, she tilted her head. "You carry a different light today, like the sun's found its way through the clouds." I chuckled, warmth spreading. "Perhaps it's the brie talking." She shook her head, earnest. "No, it's you. More present, more Evelyn." I toyed with a napkin, folding and unfolding. "Your words last time, they stirred the silt. You saw the walls I built, not just with you, but the world. Edward was kind, steady as the tide, but our life prioritized harmony over raw truth. I learned to dim my edges to fit." Clara's eyes softened, a mirror to the boy she'd been in spirit, fierce protector, quiet listener. "I want both of you," I continued, voice gaining ground. "Clara the daughter, and Clara the woman who's weathered her own storms." Silence bloomed, rich and resonant, until her fingers bridged the gap across the low table, lacing with mine. Warmth bloomed there, familiar yet electric. "Ever imagine alternate paths?" she murmured. "If I'd grown without that distance, if you'd let your colors bleed free?" I held her gaze, the sea's cadence syncing with my breath. More than stars in the night sky. The evening deepened as we kindled a fire in the pit out back, flames licking driftwood logs, sparks dancing upward like liberated thoughts. We spoke of her divorce's quiet unraveling, the way it left her adrift, of my youthful wanderlust, backpacking through olive groves in Greece before Edward's proposal grounded me. Laughter threaded through, light as sea foam, stories of her childhood pranks, like the time she borrowed my paints to mural the garden fence with fantastical sea beasts. As embers glowed to ash, she glanced skyward, stars pricking the velvet dark. "Fancy a stroll?" We wandered the beach, shoes abandoned, sand cool and yielding. Waves lapped our ankles, and without fanfare, her arm slipped around my waist, mine over her shoulders. It was shelter, not statement, two figures silhouetted against the moonlit surf, steps sinking in unspoken harmony. Back inside, the cottage wrapped us in its hush. She lingered by the door, reluctance in her posture. "Stay for a film?" I offered, surprising myself. We chose an old favorite, The Secret Life of Bees, curling onto the sofa with a shared quilt. Proximity crept in naturally, my temple against her collarbone, her fingers idly twirling a lock of my hair. Her heartbeat thrummed steady beneath my ear, a lullaby I'd forgotten. The credits rolled, but we lingered in the afterglow. "This ease," she whispered. "I've missed it." "As have I echoed, the words a vow. She rose reluctantly, but at the threshold, paused, eyes locking with mine in the lamplight's halo. If I returned more, not for chores or check-ins, but for us, just being, would that sit right? My answer flowed swift and sure. It would light the whole shore. Her goodbye brushed my temple. Lips warm, a second's hesitation turning it profound, affection distilled, boundaries honored in their blurring. Alone, I traced the doorframe, a subtle shift settling like tide pools after retreat. Not rupture, but renaissance. The ensuing days wove a new pattern, thoughts of Clara threading through chores like silver in sea glass. I'd linger over breakfast, toasting bread with marmalade, replaying the cadence of her laugh, or sketch idly by the window, lines flowing freer than in months. Smiles came unbidden, sparked by the memory of her hand in mine, solid, seeking. Wednesday brought her unannounced, the crunch of gravel a welcome herald. No tote, no pretext. Just her, wind-tousled and expectant. "Felt the pull," she said simply, and we both knew it for truth. We claimed the porch swing that afternoon, creaking gently as we sipped lavender lemonade, the world reduced to rustling palms and distant buoy bells. Conversation meandered like the tide. Her secret love for blues harmonica, learned in smoky bars during college. My buried dream of captaining a small sailboat, charting hidden coves. She confessed fragments I'd never gleaned, the isolation of adolescence. How Edward's unyielding calm had forged her own mask of composure, even in vulnerability's grip. How she'd eavesdrop from the loft, my voice weaving folk songs in the kitchen, yearning to decode the melody's hidden lyrics, the woman beyond the hearth. I reciprocated, unveiling layers long folded away. My first heartbreak under Parisian rain, the novel I'd abandoned when motherhood called louder, the poems etched in journals Edward dismissed as frivolous whims. As dusk painted the sky in ochre strokes, she unearthed a leather-bound journal from her satchel. "My scribbles," she said, cheeks flushing. "Born in the divorce's ashes. Ramblings, really." I paged through, words leaping like waves, raw verses on fractured trust, resilient blooms from barren soil. "This sings," I breathed, moved. "You've captured lightning in ink." Her grin echoed her younger self, impish, unbound. Dinner unfolded as collaboration. I seared scallops from the market. She whisked a citrus vinaigrette, our movements a choreography of rediscovered grace. Midway, reaching for the salt, our knuckles grazed, time suspended, the stove's hiss amplifying, breath sinking in the charged hush. Eyes met, held. No retreat, only recognition. Post-meal, we migrated to the sitting room, a vintage phonograph spinning Ella Fitzgerald's velvet tones. Clara reclined against the cushions, arm draped casually. I nestled closer, side to side, the quilt a shared veil. "Recall my sprained ankle saga?" She mused. I laughed, the sound fuller. "Climbing the lighthouse to chase that comet. Tumbling like a fool." "You forsook sleep," she continued softly. "Propping my foot, tales of constellations till dawn chased the ache. Emotion crested, softening my mirth. Pain was fleeting once you arrived." Silence enveloped us, pregnant with reminiscence. Then her palm cupped my cheek, thumb tracing a laugh line with reverence. Her gaze implored, not demand, but invitation, earnest, unguarded. I leaned in, not fleeing the pull. No precipice leaped. Instead, she drew near, brows meeting in a touch as intimate as confession. We lingered, breaths mingling, the jazz a distant underscore to this wordless accord, a pivot where guarded hearts yielded. Parting came reluctant. At the door, her voice trembled. It's uncharted for me." "For me too," I confessed, "yet it resonates true." She nodded, a quiet pact sealed. Like reclaiming stolen breaths. That eve, hearthside alone, I cradled embers glow, unmarred by doubt. Seen, cherished, not in fragments but entirety. A seed stirred, tender, and tenacious. Subsequent sunrises dawned gentler, the cottage's quiet no longer void but vessel, cradling anticipation like a conch shell's echo. I tended the herb garden with purpose, clipping rosemary for future feasts. Polished the sea chest where Edward's letters slept, not to banish but befriend the past. Clara's absence bred no void. It cultivated certainty. She'd return, drawn by the same inexorable current. Thursday waned into Friday without her shadow on the path. But Saturday's gloaming brought the signal, her rhythmic knock, etched in memory. The door yielded to her frame, unburdened by parcels, eyes alight with nervous fire. Mind if I cross the threshold? A superfluous query. I drew her in, the air humming with unspoken voltage. We gravitated to the fireside, proximity instinctive, knees grazing, palms entwining as flames flickered. Her thumb etched lazy spirals on my skin, grounding. Reflections have swirled, she confided, voice low. On us, this unfolding. Daunting, because the world spins narrow tales. I searched her face. Does it ring clear to you? A pause then. Clarity evades, but the feel, it's balm, not breach. Healing, that balm soothed wounds I hadn't mapped. Not illusion, but genesis from loss's fissures. A bond forged in visibility, untainted by convention's glare. If ever it veers, she added, grip tightening, speak it. You've cradled me kinder than winds the shore, I assured. Dialogue flowed till stars wheeled overhead. Regrets aired like linens to breeze. Her unspoken plea for mentorship in art school. My silenced urge to roam fjords untethered. She revealed the divorce's hollow core, touch-starved in its wake. I voiced age's subtle theft, visibility eclipsed by titles, spouse, parent, mourner, over Evelyn's essence. Midnight told. She stirred. Time calls, but reluctance laced it. I rose with her, inches apart in the fire's dying warmth. Remain, I urged, impulse pure. Not for more than presence, shared shelter. Her eyes probed, finding consent. The settee suits, she demurred. No need for divides, I countered softly. We've bridged. Now we traverse. Lights dimmed, I guided her to the loft bedroom, its eaves whispering of storms past. No haste, no unveiling, we reclined as is, facing in moonlight's silver wash. Fingers interlaced, respirations harmonizing. Taboo dissolved in this sanctum, yielding to soul's reconvening. Not in flesh's haste, but spirit's embrace. Her lips grazed my brow. Then temple, culminating in a brush against mine. Chaste, sacred, a seal of gratitude, not greed. She withdrew, gaze luminous. I cherish you, she breathed. Echoing came effortless. And I, you. Slumber claimed us entwined. Not as fracture, but mending, voyagers docking after tempests. Dawn gifted tea steeped strong, her kiss to my knuckles a benediction over toast and jam. Till Eve's meal, she vowed, departing with a wave that lingered. From the casement, I watched her fade into mist, serenity blooming, sun-kissed, unshadowed. For the first span since Edward's ebb, wholeness resurfaced, not patching voids, but birthing anew from remnants. Clara and I had alchemized grief's ash into this luminous filament, fragile yet fierce. Weeks unfurled like kelp in current, our rhythm attuning. Mornings, I'd wake to her note on the counter, sketched waves framing dawn's yours, before she slipped to her harbor shift. Evenings summoned her back, collaborative suppers of grilled fish and foraged greens, wine loosening tongues to dreams deferred. We'd roam the bluffs at twilight, hands clasped against chill gusts, debating constellations or the poetry of tides, her verses recited from memory, mine revived in halting lines on napkins. One crisp autumn eve, as leaves skittered like confetti across the path, she arrived with a rolled canvas underarm. For you, she said, unspooling it. A portrait of me by the sea, strokes capturing not just form but fire, the laugh from that old photo reborn in oils. Tears welled, grateful. You've seen through, I whispered, pulling her close. We danced then, impromptu to a radio waltz, bodies swaying in the kitchen's glow, steps tentative at first, then fluid, laughter bubbling as we spun. Intimacy deepened in layers. Never rushed. Shared baths drawn, steaming, backs soaped with care, mornings tangled in sheets, whispers tracing collarbones, nights where words failed, touch sufficed, fingertips mapping scars, both visible and veiled. It was reverence, not conquest, A dialogue of skin and soul, honoring boundaries while expanding them. Doubts surfaced, as tides do, whispers of judgment from imagined eyes, the world's rigid cartography. Over cider by the hearth one stormy night, she voiced it. What if they glimpse, condemn? I cupped her face steady. Our truth isn't theirs to map. We've claimed light from shadow. Let it shine. Her exhale was surrender, resolve. Winter cloaked the coast in frost lace, our bond a hearth against it. Holidays dawned redefined. No obligatory gatherings, but rituals ours. A Yule log carved with intertwined initials, carols harmonized off-key, gifts of handwritten letters sealing affections. Clara's lease lapsed come January. Unspoken, she migrated fully, wardrobe folding into my oak chest, her harmonica joining my sketch pads on the shelf.